Hey guys, Jeffrey from Headstrong Training Systems here. So today I want to talk about a topic that I get asked a lot, and that question is, should I be pulling conventional type deadlifts or sumo type deadlifts? Now, I'm not going to spend this video breaking down the differences between conventional sumo. Basically, conventional is the type of deadlift where you have your stance closer together, and the sumo deadlift, you have your stance much wider apart. Now, I want to break down 4 key reasons or 4 key topics which are factors that I would assess when determining whether I should pull conventional or sumo. Now, the first topic or the first area I will look into is your lifting experience or your training experience. How long of an exposure have you had in the sport? Are you a relatively new lifter where you've just got a couple months under your belt, maybe even a year or two? Are you more of an intermediate to advanced lifter where you've been in the game maybe 3 to 4 years? So I would say that in general, if you are newer to the sport of powerlifting, I would highly recommend sticking with the conventional deadlift. And why I say that is so that you can build a foundation, because with the conventional deadlift, you get a lot more transfer to your other movements. You get a lot more transfer to your squats, and you get a lot more transfer to leg drive of the bench press, a lot more than the sumo deadlift. In addition, I would say that with the conventional deadlift, it is more taxing on your back, because compared to the sumo deadlift, your back angle would be a lot more horizontal, a lot more bent over, and as such, a lot more stimulus and a lot more exposure goes to your lower back. But that's not a bad thing. And I would highly recommend that for beginning athletes or athletes who haven't had a lot of exposure in that specific type of movement, to strengthen their lower back, because the lower back is everything. The lower back will make or break your squat, your bench, your deadlift. You need a very strong and you need a very stable lower back. So if you go straight into sumo deadlifts, yes, you might be pulling a lot bigger numbers. You might be you might feel that the movement's a lot better for you, but you would have skipped the foundation building step. You would have skipped the steps of building your lower back, building your body as a general, and greater transfer to other lifts that you get more from conventional deadlifts. Now, the second factor that I would assess when evaluating whether I recommend an athlete or myself whether I pull conventional or sumo is your leverages. So looking at simply, are you able to get into the sumo deadlift position, or is the sumo deadlift position a better position for you? Because to get down the sumo deadlift and to make the sumo deadlift very efficient, the sumo deadlift is very technically heavy. It is very dependent not on your raw strength, because with the conventional deadlift, if you don't have the tech down, if you don't have the perfect leverages for it, you can pretty much raw dog the deadlift. You can grind it out. With the sumo, it's so dependent on your tech, dependent on how you set your center of mass, dependent on how upright you can sit, dependent on your hip mobility. I would say that hip mobility is probably hip mobility and flexibility in that area will probably be one of the most key areas of a sumo deadlift, because simply if you don't have the hip mobility, you can't sit in without hip pain, then that will pretty much that be an injury risk. If you force yourself into an angle that your hips simply can't take, you won't be able to sit as upright. And on a personal side, that's why for a long time I haven't even touched sumo deadlift, simply because of my hip impingement. I couldn't perform the external rotation that was needed in order to sit in an advantageous position. Now, moving aside, still under the realm of leverages, but moving aside from injury and whether your body can take it, I would say look at your leverages. And what I say for that is your limb lengths. Do you have very long legs? Would you be, or very long arms? In which stance would you be more efficient or would be most beneficial to your specific limb lengths? Those are things that to also consider. Now, the third thing that I would consider when choosing between conventional and sumo deadlifts is injury or pain. And that pain, I would say, is what I mean by that is, in what type of deadlift movement do you not get pain at all? So an example I'll give is one of my athletes. He experienced very severe lower back pain from conventional deadlifts. We made that switch to sumo because we needed to give him exposure in a deadlift sense, and the sumo deadlift is legal in competition. We found that he didn't get any pain in his lower back from the sumo deadlift. We've been running with sumo deadlifts ever since, and every time we've tried to transition back to conventional for a pivot block or to test it out, he's had problems. So we stay away from conventional deadlifts, then we simply run with the sumo deadlifts, and maybe down the track where we've strengthened his lower back through other means, we might explore the avenue again. But simply, he gets pain from conventional deadlifts, so we won't do that. He doesn't get pain from sumo deadlifts, so that's the avenue which we will take. So that's another area to consider, is injury or pain. Which movement do you not get pain in? Now, the fourth thing, the fourth variable which I would argues probably the strongest variable or factor to take in consideration is simply personal preference. Personal preference. Do you prefer pulling in a conventional stance or a sumo stance? Now, with that question, you need to be both subjective and objective. Objectively, you have to look at the numbers that you're hitting. That is definitely an avenue to explore, but you also have to look at it from a subjective standpoint. And what I mean by that is you have to implement a bit of emotion. You have to action emotion. You have to take into account emotion when making this decision. Now, what I mean by that is, say for example, on a sumo deadlift where it is so technically heavy, for me, I need to take my time set up. I have to make sure that both my feet are aligned. I have to make sure that not even anything is out of whack. I have to make sure that my grip is symmetrical. I have to make sure that my fingers on the ring are symmetrical. I have to do all these things. I have to wedge my feet around. I have to rotate this and wedge into there. I have to take so much time setting up the sumo deadlift to make sure that exactly everything is in the right spot or the bar won't break the ground. On vice versa, with the conventional deadlift, because it is less dependent on form, I can be more aggressive into it. I don't have to think as much with the setup. I don't have to take as much time with the setup. So say I hype myself up, I take my ammonia, if it's a conventional deadlift, I can just get in, slack pull, rip it off the floor. With a sumo, after I take my ammonia, after I'm in my moment of hype, I have to take myself back, I have to pull myself back. I have to be like, no, calm down, settle down, let's not muck up our setup. And so with that, in regards to that example, I would say that I would have a personal preference of pulling deadlifts in a conventional sense simply because I can action a lot more aggression into it compared to the sumo deadlift. So that's what I mean when I say personal preference. So to do a quick summary or recap of what we've gone through today, the 4 key areas or the key factors which I would consider when deciding if you're an athlete or whether yourself should be pulling conventional or sumo deadlifts would be 1, your lifting experience, 2, your leverages, which lift are you most efficient or effective at, 3, your injuries or which lift do you not get pain with, and 4thly, just personal preference, which one do you feel like is calling to you. So that's all from me today, guys. That's a wrap. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.